Where do you want to start? What's been going on with SB3? What's been going on with Texas?
What hasn't been going on with SB3 or with Texas? So where are we? Right now, we're in the middle of a veto campaign, and we're in the middle of a veto campaign because things did not go our way. There are a variety of reasons for why they did not go our way, and maybe some other day we'll do a breakdown video, like a postmortem of every left turn that should have been a right turn, and everybody that, you know, the different segments that went off and did their own thing or whatever. But for today, I just want to talk about how we got where we are right now. So I think like the top line overall thing is that Lieutenant Dan made good on his threat. I mean, he was absolutely relentless on making sure that this thing got across the finish line. So much so that he held two different bills up. He held them hostage. One was SB3, which was a school funding bill that and there was a disagreement between the Senate and the House on school funding. Like the House wanted more money for teacher pay and that kind of thing, and the Senate wanted less. So they were promised, meaning the House was promised, that if they approved the voucher program, which was a separate initiative, if they approved the voucher program, they would get their school funding. Well, that got used as leverage to not give them anything unless they all agreed to pass SB3. And at the end of the day, and I tell this to people all the time, school funding is something that affects everybody. Whether you have children or not, you pay taxes that go to school funding. And hemp doesn't affect everybody. There are still people who don't even know what it is. And the Lieutenant Governor did a very good job of spreading misinformation and fear mongering so that people were like, oh, wait, is this a thing or something like that? They also used HB46 as leverage. That's the teacup expansion program that came out of the House. And they also used that as leverage. And so Representative Oliverson, who is an anesthesiologist, when he's not being a legislator, he was convinced by Lieutenant Dan to go out and garner signatures. I'm sure he was promised something very big, and I'm sure we'll hear about it soon enough. But he worked the floor relentlessly for 4 days getting signatures. And basically what he told people was that the teacup expansion program would replace any concerns anybody had about losing hemp products. And he also talked about all these things that were untrue. He talked about psychosis and people dropping dead, and I mean, just the usual fear-mongering talking points. And he was very good at it. Gotta hand it to him. He's kind of got like this beak nose, you know, and these little eyes. And so you just like stare at him. So you're just like listening to him because he's got this interesting looking face. And, but he convinced everybody that the teacup expansion program would give them what they needed, and they didn't need to worry about SB3 going through. Nobody was going to lose anything. They could go through the medical program. He also said that the doctors in the medical program are trained on how to prescribe dosages. That is a lie. That is untrue. That doesn't happen. And he said other stuff like that to like convince legislators. And because legislators, for the most part, are afraid of Dan Patrick, they were looking for any cover that they needed to vote the way Dan Patrick wanted them to. So you have this doctor saying, oh, no, I'm a doctor. Listen to me, because our healthcare system is so great. We should listen to the doctors. I'm a doctor, listen to me. And then, you know, you're not gonna get school funding unless we get this thing. What's fascinating is that very few people stood up and said, you are holding children's education hostage for a pet project that nobody asked you for. And very few people, in fact, we had one Republican that voted against SB3. One Republican, one. We had, you know, Jean Wu and Josie Garcia and Representative Anchia. I mean, they all got up and they fought for our industry. I mean, they did a phenomenal job. But at the end of the day, people cut all kinds of side deals. I talked to a legislator, none of the ones that I just mentioned, but I talked to a different legislator who was kind of like on the fence, and I'm like, listen, you know, what can we do, whatever. And he was like, listen, everybody's off cutting their own side deals. It's, you know, it's kind of disgusting, but it is what it is. This is a really weird session, and people are just trying to get what they can get for their pet projects. And nobody had hemp as their pet project. So politics trumped policy. And which brings us to the veto campaign that we're pushing now, which is handwritten letters to go to the governor. We have drop-off points, and people can bring them to our office. Nicole with THBC is coordinating everything so that we get these letters and we get them to the governor. And I know that everyone is panicked because we are where we are right now. And it's very difficult to stay on course when you're panicked. So I want to urge everybody to please stick with the handwriting campaign. We only have like a few more days of that, and then that's going to be over. And you can focus on other, projects or other Hail Marys that you want to do. But right now, this is the thing that we're working on, and we just need everybody to do that. I also want to point out that there's still misinformation going on. This morning, there was an article where Sid Miller, who I know is close to people at another organization, Sid Miller did an interview where he said this ban would not hurt hemp farmers at all. And it's like the level of disconnectedness between these politicians and the reality of life is incredible. So Sid Miller, Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller, thinks that this hemp ban won't affect hemp farmers. I mean, it's like, so anyway, we got leveraged. We were used as trade bait to get what they wanted, for the House to get what they wanted. And at the end of the day, very few people stood with us. HB2, the school funding bill, got reduced by like 40%, so they still didn't get what they had been promised. And then HB 46 was reduced further. All the additional conditions that they had added in and increasing the number of licenses, all of that was changed at the last minute. And then I think there was because there was so much hue and cry and people were so outraged and it's so obvious what was happening that they added in the chronic condition, the chronic pain thing back in. But they left the number of licenses at 3, which will make Texas Originals very happy, even though this is not going to save them. But that's another video. So I just ask everybody to stick to the plan. We got here through a series of things we could not control. We did everything possible. I was up until midnight, 1 o'clock every night. I mean, it was really like the way this played out was an insult to democracy and freedom and liberty. And, right now I am ashamed for the state of Texas. This is just this is not what Texas is supposed to be. So stick to it. We're in this situation now, but we'll be in another situation soon. So we'll talk about that later.
What do you think the chances are that with this letter writing campaign and the other things that you're doing behind the scenes, that vetoing it is likely?
Well, I am hopeful for a veto. Governor Abbott is very smart. He is also very pro-business, and he has built Texas into the business-friendly environment it was until the other day, and he is still the governor of the state. So we can, we have that hope, that expectation. I mean, we're asking a lot from him. We're saying, go against your party. Go against, the majority of the legislature that betrayed their citizens. And I mean, there were hundreds of calls, thousands of calls. I mean, hundreds of calls were coming in during the day, but when you add it up, it was thousands of calls. So we're making calls to the governor now. He's been neutral on the whole thing, but he is a smart guy. He does understand revenue. He's never done anything, exhibited any behavior to show that he is willing to gut an industry. So, fingers crossed. I have hope. So we're pushing handwritten letters. This is the most impactful, and I know that a lot of people have done digital ones. We have a petition, but our petition has a signature block in it, so you'll see people's signature, even though it was printed electronically. You'll still see a signature, but handwritten signatures, that kind of thing, that's what's the most impactful, and so that's what we're pushing. If you go to the THBC website, you'll see the petition, and also if you go to any store in Texas, you should be able to find a blank template for the veto letter, and then just fill it in, have all your customers fill it in, friends and family fill it in, everybody fill it in. And if you need help, contact Nicole at TexasHempBusinessCouncil.com or Cynthia at HometownHero.com, and just let us know that you need to know where to drop off or where to pick up or whatever, and we will hook you up. And time is of the essence. We do not have a lot of time here, so it's all hands on deck. Leave everything on the field. We have to do this. Okay.
And then what should people be saying in their letter?
They can say how the products have helped them. The clear thing is that they want a veto, right? That's the thing. So I put my story about how I moved here from Florida for this thriving industry, and I'm very disappointed with Texas, but I'm hoping that the governor will understand what's at stake here. So personal letter, what's most important to you, what you want the governor to know. What is the thing? If yours is the only letter that gets read, what is it you want to impart to the governor? No pressure, but but that's kind of what we're working on. What is, just your heartfelt sentiment, and please, no abuse, no cursing, no profanity, we need this. And we don't need to give the governor any reasons to not give us a veto. So, very respectful.